The ITERS rating scale, understanding the scale and the scoring. Let's have a look. So the ITERS rating scale has a 1 to 7 scale. 1 is inadequate, 3 is minimal, 5 is good, and 7 is excellent. It is actually possible to score in between those as well. So it is possible to also score a 2, a 4, and a 6. But just 1, 3, 5, and 7 have descriptors allocated to them. There are 33 items in total in the ITERS scale, and each item is rated using the 1 to 7 scale. So, rating an item. An item can be rated at any number between 1 and 7. 1 is the worst, inadequate, and 7 is the best, excellent. And each item can be anywhere on the scale depending on how good or poor your practice in that particular item or domain is. Let's have a look at the rules. So scoring. A rating of 1 is given if any criteria under the inadequate heading is met. A rating of 2 is given if none of the inadequate criteria are met and half of the minimal criteria are met. A rating of 3 is given where none of the inadequate criteria are met and all of the minimal criteria are met, but nothing more. A rating of 4 is given if all of the minimal criteria are met and half of the good criteria are met. A rating of 5 is given if all the minimal and all the good criteria are met. A rating of 6 is given if all the minimal and all the good criteria in the item are met and half of the excellent criteria are met. A rating of 7 is given if all the minimal, all the good, and all the excellent criteria are met. And of course, none of the inadequates are met. So let's just recap that and break it down score by score. So a score of 1. If any of the criteria inadequate have been met, then you are stuck at a number 1. You cannot progress past number 1 if you have met any of the criteria listed under inadequate. A score of 2. In order to achieve 2, none of the inadequate can be met and half of these minimal criteria should be met. So on this example, we can see that there's 4 criteria listed under minimal. So to achieve a 2, you need to get at least 2 of those or 3 of those. If you've just got 1 of the criteria on minimal, then you're still stuck at a number 1. You are inadequate. If you've got 2 or 3, then your overall score for this item would be a 2. To achieve a 3, you would need to achieve all 4 of those criteria listed in the minimal column. And obviously, none of the inadequates. To meet a score of 4, you would need all of those criteria listed under minimal and half of those criteria listed under good. So also in the good column, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 criteria. So in order to achieve a 4, you would need to have 2 or 3 of those good criteria in addition to those at minimal. To achieve a 5, you would need all of those in the good column. All 4 of those criteria you would have needed to have met. obviously plus the minimal, and none of the inadequate. Let's look at a score of 6. So a score of 6 would be building on what you already have, so none of the inadequate, all of the minimal, all of the good, and here in excellent there's 3 criteria. So you would need to meet half of those, and as it is an odd number, half of those in this case would be 2. So you would need to meet all of the good plus 2 of those listed under the excellent criteria, and that would bring you out at a score of 6. And to get the excellent score, you would need to meet all of the criteria at minimal, all of the criteria at good, and all 3 of those criteria listed as excellent. And each item in the ITERs have a different number of criteria listed under inadequate, minimal, good, and excellent. This is the criteria and the rating scale for item 4, which is displays. But if you look at another item, they will have different numbers of criteria under each of those headings: inadequate, minimal, good, and excellent. But these same rules would still apply: none, all, half.